What's up, Dallas Mavericks fans and MFFLs? I hope you guys are doing great out there today. Yesterday, in Game 3 of the 2023 NBA Summer League, the Dallas Mavericks were able to take down the Golden State Warriors 98-96 in overtime. It was a bit of a roller coaster game, and pretty much for the whole team in certain instances, but they were able to pull out the win, so there are a few nuggets and things to take away from that game. Before we get going, as always, I want you guys to go ahead and subscribe, go ahead and like, share, comment, anything down below, just to let me know, pretty much, and the rest of us know, just your thoughts on the direction the team has gone, what your viewpoint is for the rest of this summer league, and just pretty much anything you want this team to still accomplish with the rest of the offseason before heading into training camp a little bit later in a few months. As always, like I said, I appreciate you guys for sure. Let's get going. Before we get going, let's take a quick look at the stat sheet from last game. Yesterday, Jaden Hardy was again pretty much the focal point of the offense. It was not that pretty of a game for him for many different reasons. But at the same time, we're still talking about a young kid. He's 21 years old, I think. So he's still learning. He's still trying to figure out his own game, where exactly he's going to be able to help the NBA team in the upcoming season. Because again, we can talk about sometimes his game gets a little bit erratic and out of control, it seems. But Jared Dudley has said multiple times it's pretty much that's designed for him to have to do a little bit more than what he's used to, because what they want to do is try to build and develop his game a little bit more when it comes to playmaking, when it comes to defense, things like that. The issue you have with a Jaden Hardy is sometimes he's the epitome of a bucket getter, of that mentality. So sometimes if the shot's not falling, he will continue to just let it fly, which you can't knock, because again, the last thing you want is guys to lose their confidence. But sometimes players do need to know when to take it down a notch. And I don't want to say defer to everyone else, but kind of just wait to set everything else up for the rest of your teammates that might have a little bit more juice to that game that day. Jaden Hardy ends the game with 21 points, I believe 5 rebounds, 2 blocks, 2 assists. He also has 7 fouls. We know pretty much the summer league rule is that you can have 10 fouls. You don't foul out until 10, because again, they're like giving a lot of young guys coming from college, a lot of guys that are just now starting to get their feet wet in the NBA game, the chance pretty much to just adapt to the way that things are called in the NBA. So it was not a pretty game. We're talking 6 of 19 from the field goal on field goals. We're talking about 1 of 9 from 3. He was 8 of 15 from the free throw line. So again, we're talking about he ends up with 21 points, but it was not the prettiest way to get it. What you wanted to see from a Jaden Hardy is that the fact that he didn't pretty much turn into a shell of himself, because you don't want that. But we're still talking about he has to pretty much get better at shot selection. He has to get better at just knowing when it's time to, just like I said, just take it a step back a little bit, because we can see the same thing when it comes to the NBA games. What we want to have, you have a Luka Doncic, you have a Kyrie Irving. So you're going to be expecting way more from a Jaden Hardy in year 2. I believe he has the potential and the capability to do it, because we can talk about our young assets, talking to go to a Josh Green, go to a Jaden Hardy. You see it all the time. Josh Green, Jaden Hardy now, especially from this fan base, are starting to a little bit try to, I want to say, compare them a little bit. But to me, they're 2 totally different players. You're talking about a Jaden Hardy is more of your shooter, your score mentality type player on your team. And now with Josh Green, we know his athleticism is through the roof, but he is more of your two-way player. He's going to give you a little defense. He's going to give you a little bit more of everything. I'm more of a Swiss Army knife, because I don't even want to say two-way player. There are things he can get better at consistently on the offensive side when it comes to a Josh Green. But these are 2 different players. So I don't see the reason for us to start the whole pitting thing against each other, because what we're doing now is you never can have too much talent. You can't have too many assets. We're now looking at the point where we are looking to potentially bring in some more big man help. So who would that make it more expendable? A Jaden Hardy, a Josh Green? At the end of the day, this front office has pretty much let it be known that they value both of them. Now, I don't think it's as set in stone that neither one could be moved. But I believe the front office does have a vision that both of them can possibly bring to this team. So we'll just have to see. But Jaden Hardy, I just want to keep seeing him progress. I want to keep seeing him just, again, put him in a position that he's uncomfortable with, because that's exactly what the offseason is about. I can definitely say I applaud to Jared Dudley, because you want Jaden Hardy to be as uncomfortable as possible, because that way, when the real-time situations start in a few weeks, in a few months, you'll be able to see this development and things that he's gotten better at. So just stick with it. If I say anything to Jaden Hardy, just stick with it. I believe he will get on track and figure out just that nice middle ground when it comes to playmaking and scoring. So we'll see. It's like I said, he's still a young kid. Just let him grow. This was, for me, definitely the best game played by Derek Lively and Max Prosper. I feel like both of them were literally, I guess they showed glimpses. This is the game I want to say they both showed glimpses of exactly what you could see potentially for the future of the NBA team. They literally were all over the place, and I want to say best game, period, because Derek Lively, he ends up with 11 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks in I believe 30 minutes of game time, a +4 and a +-. He was pretty much that defensive low post stalwart that you were counting on when you drafted him, and with the vision that you could have for him for the Dallas Mavericks in the future. He was all over the place. And now, which I want to say, what you saw a little bit more of, I'll give him, is that he was more active offensively, and that comes from setting other people up at the top of the key. Or also, I feel like he was a little bit better on screens. They're still not pretty. They're a work in progress. But Derek Lively was all over the place on both sides of the ball yesterday. I feel like best game so far. Hopefully he can just keep growing. Now we see a Derek Lively sitting at 30 minutes. That was not, again, pretty much that was designed. Because we said, starting from game one, Jared Dudley let it be known the minutes will continue to rise. Just keep putting this kid in opportunities to show and prove himself, and he's going to take off, I believe. Olivier Maxence Prosper, 17 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, I think. Also, we're talking about a guy played 33 minutes, was +6 in the +-. If you want to see a player, when I say the ones that make these plays that don't always show up in the stats on the stat sheet, Max Prosper is literally your man. That's who you're looking for, because he showed yesterday, whether it was just picking up loose balls, whether it's talking about just pretty much getting those in traffic rebounds, starting a fast break. We saw him push it many times. Honestly, him pushing it on the very last possession in overtime that ends up being the winning bucket for the Dallas Mavericks. It was started by his defensive pressure. Again, you can't finalize defense without the rebound. He shows that he's willing to throw his body in there. He does not think twice about it. I love this kid's game. I love what he's going to be. I'm talking about, and I don't want to get too crazy right now, but again, I'm talking about in a few years, I can definitely see an Max Prosper being one of those all NBA defensive team players that you're going to look at and see consistently on those, getting those votes always. So I love this kid's game. I feel like it's going to mesh so well with the Luka Doncic and the Kyrie Irving, because what you're now going to be able to do, and we're not even talking about the simple fact, again, that he doesn't take any time when it comes to penetrating to the bucket. He has no issue with attacking the rim. That is going to work out more wonders, because, again, we're talking about especially a Kyrie Irving. He loves to get out in transition. He's shown it many times. There are going to be so many easy buckets for an Max Prosper on the court. There are going to be so many easy buckets for a lot of these young guys, especially. So you're talking about Luka Doncic. We know exactly what he's going to be able to now. I don't want to say take it easy on defense, because that's what a Luka Doncic defense joke started. But now there's just going to be a little bit more reason for him to not have to exert energy on the other side of the ball as much, because, again, we do know and what we've seen the last couple of years. Hopefully, Luka Doncic can continue to work on his body, keep his conditioning where it needs to be, because we do see him at times. It seems he starts to tire, he starts to wear down a little bit, and his game starts to slow down. And you can see it visibly. So having an Max Prosper, having a Derek Lively, these two young guys, they are going to be the pretty much defensive faces of your franchise for years to come. That's the plan. So just keep putting Max to me. And I want to say, we're talking about upside. Max Prosper to me has one of the highest upsides. I want to say, outside of your obvious guys. We're talking to Scoot Henderson. We're talking guys like that. I'm going to say Max Prosper has one of the highest ceilings, because if we can work on this offensive game, he already has the dog capabilities on defense and just hustle. You can't teach that stuff. You can't teach it. You either have it or you don't. He is going to be one of those players that he's going to be loved in the city for years to come. It's starting to get real tricky when you're looking at those two-way contracts and who's going to end up on a G League potentially for the Dallas Mavericks, the Texas Legends, who's going to end up actually having a roster spot or potentially fighting for a roster spot when it comes around to training camp. AJ Lawson was all over the place yesterday, and I'm talking about continuing to show the game that he does have. It's more than just a three-point shot, which we got capable. I mean, we're pretty much able to see the last couple years. That's kind of his calling card we're expecting to be a 3-and-D player. He's shown more aggressiveness on defense. He's shown more capabilities when it comes to running in transition and finishing in transition. He has a transition steal and dunk yesterday. It kind of like a big momentum shifter, keeps things in play for the team. Also, Mike Miles Jr. out of TCU ends up with 19 points. I'm going to say now, that is a guy, McKinley Wright. If a Mike Miles Jr. is able to get a camp invite or just something just to keep him in the mix of potentially whether it's fighting for that a two-way contract or something like that, that's a guy I believe like a guy like McKinley Wright needs to be very aware of, because what you can see with a Mike Miles Jr., you can't have too many guys that are not afraid to take that shot. He's shown the capability, and he's shown the just the mindset that he has is an attacker and to be aggressive on offense. Now, again, he's not the biggest guy in the world either, but you're talking about even a guy like Mike Miles Jr. and then a guy like Jordan Walker. We're talking about these undersized guards in certain instances, but they do have the capability of putting the ball in the bucket. You can't have too many of those guys on your team. So I'm excited about a guy like I said, a Mike Miles Jr. and AJ Lawson, Jordan Walker, Jelly Walker. But also, let's not forget Tajay Moore. That is someone I feel like should completely automatically, as of now, lock in one of those two-way contracts at the very minimum, because he is a hustler. And we see so many times, going back to what I said about an Max Prosper, there are some guys that just do so many things on a court that they don't always show up on the stat sheet. But when you look up at the end of the game and you're watching the film, and sometimes even as a fan, not even of that team, you could just be an outside looking in fan, you can see some guys that just do things that add value to your team and are going to help you get these victories. Tajay Moore is one of those players you have to have on your team if you're looking to make these runs. And we're talking, and now let's be clear, I'm not talking about putting him on an NBA team right now in the Dallas Mavericks and he's taking us to championship contender because he's an elite role player. But I'm saying he has some of those intangibles and some of those things, the skill sets that you can watch from a certain player and feel like they could potentially help your team in certain spots. These are some young, talented players. And like I said, now the Dallas Mavericks actually pulling in their second win of Summer League, now sitting at 2-1. You have a few guys to keep your eyes on going into training camp in a few months. The Dallas Mavericks' next Summer League game will be Friday against the Indiana Pacers at 6 o'clock Central Time, I believe on ESPN, and also streaming on Mavs.com. So please tune in, check out these young guys, see what else they can keep doing, and just keep building onto these last couple wins pretty much. Just help this team to keep just getting better. And we're talking about guys you don't know who's going to end up sticking from this team. Whether it's talking about like a guy like a Braxton Key, also played had some big plays in there, especially the game-ending dunk. You're talking about other guys, like I said, you're talking about a Jelly Walker, a Mike Miles Jr., your Tajay Moores, your obvious Derek Lively and Max Prosper. These are some guys that you want to keep your eyes on. Let's see if Jaden Hardy can bounce back and, again, just smooth some things out in his game going into, again, just keep continuing going on into the Summer League play. So we will see. Like I said, the next Mavericks game, Summer League game, will be Friday, 6 o'clock Central Time on ESPN against the Indiana Pacers, and also streaming on Mavs.com. So if you guys want to check that out, I appreciate you guys as always. Go ahead and, again, like, subscribe, share, comment down below just your viewpoints on the franchise, your viewpoints on this Summer League team, the big team, the NBA team, the Dallas Mavericks, anything like that. So I appreciate you guys as always. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.